This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At US Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With US Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
US Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With US Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose US Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. US Med. Better service, better care. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Did you know that in just a little over 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800-NEW-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-NEW-WINDOWS. They are the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Today is gorgeous. We're looking at a high temperature near record territory. Forecast high of 79 degrees, but the record for today is only 80, and that was set back in 1925. So at the very least, we could hit that record. Mostly sunny skies. We do get some more cloud cover building in tomorrow. A low temperature of 62 degrees, looking at a forecast high in the afternoon of 82. It does get a bit stormy Tuesday night into early Wednesday.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
The time to rise has been engaged. We're better, best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. Your finest hour. Your finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Monday afternoon, the beginning of a new week here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn. Looks like this week going to be another very, very busy one, so we'll keep you up to speed every step of the way. Got the latest information coming out of the Middle East and the situation with Iran. Iran has announced their new leader, which was just the Ayatollah's son, which is a person that Donald Trump had already said he was not going to be supportive of. So we'll get you the latest there. Going to have a press conference. We're going to get an update from the president a little bit later on this afternoon. I think 4:30 our time here in St. Louis. So that will be during the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. I'm sure they will be all over that for whatever new information we learn from Donald Trump. We've got things happening in the Senate. We've got things happening with executive orders. We've got things happening in the courts. So we've got a lot to talk about as we go through the day and start this busy week. Got help on the way as well to help us unpack all of this information. And a little less than an hour from now, almost exactly an hour from now, just after 3 o'clock, as we do every Monday afternoon, just after 3 o'clock, we're going to talk to our AI big tech expert, Mike McClary from Intervine. Always great to talk with Mike, and there's always the regular news cycle is already enough to try to keep you up to speed on. Things are happening so quickly with the development of AI technology and products and things like that. It's, all we can do to keep up with everything happening in that industry every Monday when we talk to Mike. So there's always great stuff to be learned whenever we talk to Mike McClary from Intervine. Before that, in this 2 o'clock hour, in just a little more than a half an hour from now, we're going to talk to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Speaking of every Monday afternoon, we talk to Paul every Monday afternoon because we want to get a check at the beginning of each and every week on the markets and the economy and things like that. There's another debate about oil prices happening right now that I'm going to bring up when we are talking to Paul. See if that has any impact on what is happening with the economy as we start this week. And also joining us on the line right now to kick off this busy week with us, again, as he does every Monday afternoon, Gabe Phifer, News Talk STL contributor, former co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning. Gabe's on the line with us now. And Gabe, we just never know what we're going to get. Every other day of the week, you've already got your feet under you. You kind of understand what's happening in the news. But starting the show on Mondays, you just never know what you're going to get, especially these days, and another busy weekend has happened. So I appreciate your time as always.
Absolutely. Happy Monday, my friend. It's definitely like a box of chocolates, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So just really quick on the announcement from the president today, just so everybody can keep their eyes on the clock. And, of course, make sure you keep it right here. As I said, Tim and Chris will be all over this. The president announced today that he will hold a news conference at 5:30 p.m. local time in Miami, Florida, before returning to Washington, D.C. later this evening. So 5:30 in Miami will be 4:30 here. And that's only if you remember to flip your clocks forward. Otherwise, it's going to be 3. No, I'm kidding. I do love the clocks moving forward.
A little weird.
Yeah, right? So that'll be 4:30 our time. Trump posted on Truth Social that he will speak from a ballroom at the Trump National Doral Golf Course. Quote, many important meetings and phone calls taking place today while I am at Trump National Doral in Miami. That's part of the quote, in Miami. Additionally, I will be going to Speaker Mike Johnson's, and then parenthetically, who's doing a fantastic job, exclamation point.
Okay.
Fundraising event at 4 p.m.
Very Trumpish.
Yeah, and fundraising event at 4 p.m. And then prior to leaving for D.C., I will hold a news conference from a Doral ballroom at approximately 5:30 p.m. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So at 4 o'clock their time there in Florida, he's heading to this Mike Johnson fundraising event, who is doing a fantastic job. And then after that event, he will be updating the nation on what is happening with Iran and I think some other issues he's going to touch on. The president did not elaborate on what he would specifically be addressing during the news conference, though there is high public interest, of course, in Operation Epic Fury, and the funding of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Really? Is there? Is there high public interest in funding the U.S. Department of Homeland Security? Because we're like 3 weeks into that department being shut down, And it's still very difficult to even find a news article on any of the major news outlets regarding this. And if you do find one, it's mostly just, yeah, it's still shut down and neither side is budging. There's not been any real information at all. So let's start with that. Do you think, and it'd be something I definitely talked to Paul Curtman about in a little bit as well, but I mean, I get it. I get that this is a partial shutdown that doesn't directly impact many of us. I have not noticed any difference in my life over the last few weeks with DHS not being funded. But that doesn't mean that it can just linger and never be addressed. It is starting to cause problems at airports with TSA being impacted. Also, border control not getting paid. So that's always that's a concern. The Coast Guard is also not getting paid. So, this can't last forever, Gabe. I understand why it's not necessarily everybody's top priority, but we got to get to it at some point, and I just don't see anybody showing any motivation to do so. What do you think about this shutdown and the possibility of it ending anytime soon?
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the weirder sort of shutdown fights because, like you said, there isn't much public interest in what's actually happening here. I mean, even if you look back at the previous shutdown, I don't think the public was really in it. We kind of didn't care. We weren't really being affected by it. In which case, it's kind of like, well, what are we even doing here? Now, there are obviously functions that the federal government serves that it's not going to be very apparent to most of us at day to day. It's not as though, okay, I can't get my Social Security benefits or anything like that. It's more like, yeah, well, the Coast Guard is just operating without pay right now. There's going to be impacts into what they can do. Like you said, the Border Patrol. Those are very important functions for the government to pursue. And if they are impacted negatively, we're not going to feel it necessarily today, but we may feel it later. And I don't. This is more emblematic to me of the fact that our budgetary house is in complete disorder. The fact that we can do any sort of shutdown, be it a partial or even the full one that we saw not too long ago, all of this is garbage. We need a balanced budget amendment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make such a great point about how, if it doesn't impact day-to-day lives, it's not going to get the attention of, the rank and file American citizen. And that's why my prediction will be that this will start to really get in the news because, and this has already started, so I'm cheating a little bit because I'm already seeing what's happening here, but I think it's going to get much worse in the next couple days and certainly in the next week or two. Spring break and people traveling for spring break and needing the airlines and needing to get down to Florida and to get down to Texas and get down to all these places where they want to party. And when the spring breakers can't get to their beach, they're going to have something to say about it. And that will be
when those lines at the airport are stretched out the door, down the highway like they were that one time.
Which is already starting to happen. It seems a little early for spring break, but I think some of the I think like this, we're in spring break season at the very beginning of it for some schools. So that's already starting to happen, and as soon as that will be the real world impact. Not. Border Patrol's not being paid, or a branch of the military not being paid, the Coast Guard. I can't get to the beach, and that's a problem. That will be where you start to see some public outcry, I think, regarding this issue. But again, just maybe that will bring it back into the news. But I don't know that it will bring it. I don't know that it will bring us any closer to an agreement. Because as I've said over and over and over again about this shutdown and the shutdown before this one and the shutdown before that one, Republicans, there's nowhere for them to go. The idea of negotiations continue, which we keep hearing, the two sides are still negotiating. There's nothing to negotiate as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing to negotiate. There's not. If Republicans give in at all on defunding ICE or allowing some kind of government oversight on new avenues of oversight over ICE, which is something that the left has been pushing for, then that, to me, that's a massive fail that they can't afford to suffer in a year like this with the midterm elections coming up. So I we'll see, but so far they've stayed strong and said all the right things. But history tells us, Gabe, that the Republicans will cave in the end. How do you see this all playing out? You have a gut feeling?
90% of the requests that the Democrats are making are pretty untenable, and I do not want the Republicans to compromise at all on. I think the 1% thing that we might be able to agree on is I think the agents need body cams.
Yeah,
and that's more to protect the agents than than the
that's good.
morons.
Yeah, agents and people and transparency. Them. Absolutely, body cams should be required everywhere, but they want so much more than that.
But yeah, they want way more. I think inevitably the Republicans have always been the ones to compromise, and that's why the Overton window, the government lurching back and forth has always kind of tended to go left. All of those things are because of compromising on our part, and I think we should just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Just don't compromise anymore. Just as much as you can run roughshod over the left, because we can't afford to keep moving in that direction.
As much as the left would be just aghast at what I'm about to say, it's the truth, and they know it's the truth, but it goes against their message that they are pushing. If the Republicans do cave in any way in these negotiations, it's only going to get even more people killed in these protests, because what it will do is it will show the left and lunatics like Keith Ellison and Jacob Fry and these other, and Ilhan Omar at the top of the list, that inciting violence and whipping people up into a frenzy, an anti-police frenzy, worked, because they'll have gotten what they wanted, or at least part of what they wanted, if the Republicans cave. And therefore, they will continue down that strategy. And, they, of course, what they would tell you is that that's the craziest thing that they could ever hear, because it's it's the ICE agents that are out there killing innocent people in the streets, which is a wild assessment, but we've heard it over and over again. But the truth is, since they don't have any real ground to stand on, their only best way of trying to influence the changes that they want in the government, and specifically with ICE, is to create chaos and to get more people hurt, because then they can go on television and say, how many more people have to die before we make changes? And they're the ones that are behind it. And they will, and if they get what they want, it won't get better. It will get worse, because they'll feel the momentum, and they'll say, all right, now let's push down on the accelerator. We've got to put a stop to it.
We definitely need to start treating the left like either toddlers or terrorists. You don't negotiate with them. You don't compromise. You don't give in to their tantrums. You don't validate whatever tactic they're using to try to get you to cave to whatever their demands are. You have to treat them with a heavy hand. Essentially, it's like, no, that's not gonna be how it works. It's either you consider what we do with terrorists or what we do with toddlers. One or the other, depending on the situation.
I love it. I'm gonna steal that one too. I was gonna say I as part of this conversation, I steal one of your lines all the time, and I almost always give you credit for it. It is so simple to not be killed by a police officer. But your line that I love that came from one of our conversations a few weeks ago. When it comes to this issue, it's so easy to not get killed by a police officer. But these people that have been, they've just been whipped into a frenzy by the left, and they've been told that this is the right thing to do, to go confront police officers in a angry, violent fashion, and it gets people hurt and gets people killed, and they want more of that because it's their only way to try to get what they want, because the truth and the facts and the real safety of the country, none of that is on their side of the argument. So they've got to create chaos in order to try to accomplish what they want. And if the Republicans cave in on these negotiations, then they're just going to be feeding into that in a big, big way. Talking to Gabe Phifer. Talking to Gabe Phifer, the smartest person I know, rocket scientist, musician, radio host, social media personality, and also on that list is church leader. And I heard a conversation, I was listening to Jamie Allman's show just a little bit ago earlier this afternoon, and Jamie was talking about, you know, pastors, religious leaders that are political, getting political from the pulpit. And I wanted to talk to Gabe about that and about the role that church has in politics, if any. And so we're going to talk to Gabe about that as we continue the conversation with Gabe Phifer next here on Colombo and Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, you know, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
So last week, the Colombo family double dipped in relying on the Weber Chevrolet service departments and taking care of our vehicles. Both my daughter's car and my truck had to go in for some maintenance last week, and it was just a perfect reminder of just how awesome the service department is at Weber Chevrolet. And you guys hear me talk all the time. To me, it's that. It's the way that they take care of you and that vehicle for the entire time that you own it that sets Weber apart from the rest. That's why you see the huge customer service rankings and reputation scores. They've been number one when it comes to Chevy dealers and GM dealers in the Midwest for years. They continue to dominate in those areas, and it is because of that customer service and because of those service departments, I believe, that they remain on top. Of course, nobody's going to give you a better deal on a new vehicle. Nobody's going to give you more on your trade-in. That's for sure. You know, they have 3 locations around town to serve you: Creve Coeur, Missouri, Granite City, and Columbia in Illinois. But, you know, outside of the prices, it's the service department, to me, that really sets Weber apart from the rest. That's why they've been in St. Louis for nearly 125 years. Just absolutely insane how long they have been a part of the St. Louis community. So if you are looking for a new vehicle, check out what's happening at all 3 Weber Chevrolet dealerships right now by going to weberchevrolet.com.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. The Hells Angels. Get ready for a ride.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio. Gabe Phifer on the line with us. And as I mentioned, along with his long resume of being a rocket scientist and a radio host and a social media personality and a musician. And am I missing anything besides church leader, Gabe?
No, I think you kind of covered it. But by the way, speaking of a musician, I happened to run into Perry while I was out and about.
Hey!
And he said he invited me to rehearsal. I'm not sure I'll be able to make it, though.
Oh, that would be great. It would be great if you could stop by rehearsal this Thursday night. That'd be awesome. And yeah, just quick reminder about that. My band with Perry Woods and Katie Fitzpatrick, of course, playing on March 20th at the Mill in Granite City. Very cool, fairly new venue out there in Granite City. We are opening up for Somebody Love, the Queen Tribute Band. Tickets are going really fast, actually. And there's kind of various seating around the club. So if you want to make sure you get seats and you get seats where you want them, I recommend you go to the website, themill.events, themill.events, ASAP, and reserve your tickets so you make sure you get the spot that you want. And yeah, it's my band, Tony Colombo and the North County Sound Machine, Perry Woods and Katie Fitzpatrick, opening up for Somebody to Love, the Queen Tribute, led by Jason Nelson, of course. And speaking of that, also on Thursday afternoon during the show, those guys are going to be in studio with me. So we're going to get some live Queen music from Somebody to Love on the show on Thursday afternoon. So make sure you tune in for that. Yeah, and then join us out there on March 20th, Friday, March 20th at the Mill, themill.events. Get your tickets, get more information there now. And yeah, please come to rehearsal if you get a chance. I'd love to just hang out. So Gabe also is a leader in his church, our church. And so I thought, this would be a perfect conversation. I heard Jamie talking about this earlier this afternoon, and I immediately made a note to myself that this is a great conversation to have with Gabe. And I think you and I have touched on this issue a couple times over the years.
A little bit.
But it always crops up, especially when there's, when religion is at the heart or plays a role in some of these issues around the world. And of course, that is definitely, in the conversation when it comes to the conflict with Iran. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on, because I hear stories from people that I know who in various Christian religions, whether it be non-denominational or Catholics or, whatever it may be. So I just say that because it doesn't seem to really matter what flavor of Christian you are. It just seems to matter more like the personality of the minister or the pastor that kind of creates these stories. That I hear from some, that their pastors will are very political. They talk, a lot about what's happening in the news, and others that just that never bring, current events up really at all. And of course, we had the situation in Minnesota where that whole thing was allegedly about the pastor of that church, having some sort of political ties that these protesters didn't like. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was the story there. It just makes me wonder, what is the church's role in politics? Should political beliefs and news stories play a role in a weekly sermon, a weekly message from your religious leaders, Gabe? Where do you fall on that issue?
Well, one of the things that I like to say, especially when I was teaching Sunday school, was that humans are really good at extremes, even though the Bible calls us to moderation. So what usually ends up happening is it's kind of like you kind of set it up. Either you've got your pastors who are strictly no politics from the pulpit, and they'll dance around it as much as they can. And then, of course, you have the pastors who have full-throated endorsements of particular candidates and particular bills from the pulpit. And it seems like those are the only two types of churches you're going to hear about. But I think the church's role is actually more important than politics, and obviously, and because if you consider the flow of how we get to politics, it starts with religion. I've discussed how there's a pathway. There's religion, culture, and then politics, and things flow in that direction. Religion being your deeply held personal beliefs, the way you relate to the world, the universe, and whatever higher power that you associate with, and that determines how you think about the issues of dealing with other people in a society. And of course, culture is where those things come to be expressed in a large group. Generally speaking, whatever group you find yourself in, you're going to find that common denominator of how you think we should be required to treat each other or held to account for things you shouldn't do, and those are the cultural norms that eventually get turned into laws through politics. It eventually gets expressed in policy. So that's the typical pathway. Now we've seen it kind of feedback. Sometimes the culture will influence the way people deal with their religion, or the politics will influence the way people view certain ideas. But generally speaking, that's the way it flows. So the church's role is to obviously influence the way you have a personal understanding of your place in the world and relative to God and your fellow man. And in the Christian church, there's a lot of discussion about that, how we're supposed to treat one another, how we're supposed to look at things, and what God thinks about all these things, and therefore what we should think about all of these things. Because if the whole point of the sanctification of the individual is to align our minds with the mind of God, then it requires that we understand God's mind as expressed in his definitive word, which is the Holy Bible. So it's the pastor's job to talk about those things in a way that people understand, and sometimes that's going to step on some political toes. And other times it also requires that you step back and not tell everybody and micromanage what they're checking off in a ballot.
I think that was a really good way to explain this, and kind of the perspective of maybe the church and leaders within the church, and at least the way that they should look at it, because I agree with that completely. For me, there's a weird line that's kind of hard to describe, but I know when you've crossed it.
Right.
And so, like, I would understand if there was a big debate or bill happening locally where my church is at, or nationally, so it's impacting everyone across the country, that regarded something like an issue like abortion, and a pastor would talk about the importance of pro-life and defending. I could that makes sense, even though I'm personally a pro-choice person. Which we're not going to get into all that right now. With very heavy restrictions, I'm a pro-choice. I believe in pro-choice, but but that would not offend me in any way to hear, my pastor or a church leader from the pulpit. Now, there's also a difference between a church leader doing an interview or appearing somewhere outside the church in a discussion. If they want to, want to share a little bit more of their personal opinions, that's a different story. But when we're talking about, a sermon of some kind, or being, talking to the congregation from the pulpit, that's the different story, and that's what I'm talking about now. So to hear them say, talk about something like a pro-life issue, I would understand, and I'm okay with. What I'm not okay with is going up there and saying, boy, this Donald Trump is an idiot, and if you voted for him, you're an idiot, and we've got to vote these people out of office. And I would feel that way, and I would feel that same way about Biden. Even though I would agree that Joe Biden's an idiot, needs to be voted out.
Right.
That's not what I want to hear. That would bother me to hear. So, I don't mean to be wishy-washy personally on this, But I think that there's a difference there. So I think there's some nuance to politics in church and when they're appropriate and when they're not. And that would be an example of one that is and one that isn't. And, there's other issues that are maybe a little bit closer to that gray area. Is there a general consensus, among the religious sect, especially when it comes to religious leaders? Is there a general consensus on whether it's okay to tell people how to vote or what, to talk politics, or is it really just, depending on the pastor, depending on the minister that you're talking to, whether or not, what answer you're going to get about its appropriateness?
Well, honestly, because there are so many denominations and they run their churches in so many different ways, it can vary pretty wildly depending on which church you happen to be passing on the block. In Missouri, because you're gonna in a typical 15-minute drive in any Missouri area, you're going to pass about 6 churches, and each of them is going to approach this issue differently. But at least from our perspective, I can kind of speak for the other gentleman on the elders board at our church. Endorsements are a hard line. You don't endorse from the pulpit. You don't tell people exactly how to vote. Now, if you are going to be speaking about an issue that is of imminent political importance, some sort of a municipal ballot or a national ballot topic, like you said, like some abortion thing, something like that, we're going to speak on the topic, itself. It's like, hey, look, this is the stance that we have based on our understanding of God's desire for humanity expressed through the Bible. Here's what we say about this. So in your discussions as you're talking about these things, this is how we're interpreting what's in the Bible about said subject. And do with that information as you will, and which is pretty much the same as with every other issue. It's this is what God says about it. Now conduct your life, with that understanding. I've told you. Now it's up to you to decide how you're going to live. So that's generally speaking how I think we desire to approach those.
Yeah,
those
that's
issues.
great, and I would endorse that process and that thinking wholeheartedly. However, we do see, other, you always hear stories about things getting a little deeper on some of these issues. On both sides of the aisle, by the way. It's not like a one-side thing.
There are individuals who will basically have a Sunday morning rally for a particular candidate or a particular issue that's on the ballot, and they'll say, if you vote this way or if you don't vote this way, then you either are or not a Christian, depending on the issue. So all of that stuff, I think that's beyond the pale. I think that's not what God intended in terms of the purpose of the church, which is to educate and equip the saints to do His work on earth. So
Yeah, great stuff. Gabe Phifer, former co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, News Talk STL contributor, who you can hear with us every Monday afternoon here on Colombo and Company. Great conversation as always, my friend. Hope to see you at band practice. That'd be a lot of fun. And if not, I'll talk to you again soon. Yeah, you bet, dude. Really appreciate it. Talk soon.
Absolutely. God bless.
Yeah, back at you, buddy. Gabe Phifer there. And we are going to keep the conversation rolling. It's Monday afternoon, which means we need to get that start of the week check on the economy and on the markets. We've got, of course, the conflict in Iran. We have got oil prices making big headlines today. How are all of these issues impacting the markets as we start this week? We're going to find out when we talk to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments next.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STO Windows and Doors. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or STOWindowsandDoors.com.
This year, America turns 250, and News Talk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. News Talk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration. Freddy's Market, Iron Bear Customs, and STL Windows and Doors. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Paul Curtman's Financial Update is brought to you by PR Curtman Investments, providing customized strategic guidance to help you build and protect your wealth. Learn more at prcurtman.com.
Welcome back to, Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio. Just had a great conversation with Gabe Phifer, and now we have our buddy Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments on the line with us, as we do every Monday, to kick off the week with a check on the markets and the economy. And Paul, as always, really appreciate your time, my friend. Uh-oh. Paul, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. I was going to say, we
There
just
we
talked
go.
to him at the break. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's an exciting time to be talking about the markets just because of everything going on. There's just so much news about the markets. Even today, Tony, the S&P 500 was poised to open like 3% below its closing price on Friday because over the weekend, the markets in Asia just completely fell apart, like the floor fell out from underneath them. But today the S&P 500, from its lowest point today to where it is right now, has made a positive 2.3% swing. Like it's gone up 2.28% since its lowest point today. So there is so much volatility in the market. And even though that's a good swing, you think oh, wow, 2.28% up. Listen, because of what's going on in the world right now, because of what's going on with the Federal Reserve, because of what's going on in technology and AI, we could see that just as easily reverse and be down 2% the next day. So there's a lot of volatility because there's so many moving parts to what's going on the world stage right now.
Okay, so just from what you just said, I just wrote down 3 questions. Let's take them one at a time. And, understanding that we kind of got to get the Cliff Notes version of the answer for the sake of time. And I know that, that these issues have a lot more nuance and are a lot deeper than we, necessarily have time to dig into. But let's start with what you mentioned about over the weekend and the markets in Asia and what impacted the opening today. What happened? Was there one reason, or was it a host of reasons that caused that collapse in Asia and to get us off to a poor week here?
Well, one of the reasons for sure just has to do with what's going on in Iran. So when Iran decides to close the Straits of Hormuz, and when you consider the fact that as much as 20% of the world's oil supply moves through the Straits of Hormuz, those countries, especially those countries in Asia that are so dependent on the flow of oil, like many countries are, right? But not all countries have deep reserves like the U.S., for example. And so all that does is it creates an environment of more insecurity and uncertainty about what the future holds. And sometimes the markets will just begin to panic sell. We actually saw this happen in Asia a couple years ago when the markets began to tumble, and it was just kind of a quick chain reaction. The U.S. quickly felt a little dimple of that, but then we recovered because we realized this doesn't have a whole lot to do with us. But that's what happened in Asia. But I think one of the reasons why the market is going up today is not because it doesn't have anything to do with us. It certainly does, everything that's going on in Iran. I think one of the reasons is because the G7 is meeting and they're talking about how to stabilize the price of oil. So that brings a lot of certainty back to the table. And so I think that you're seeing the global markets now begin to respond positively, that some of these world leaders, some of these biggest economies in the world are actually having a conversation about how to make sure this doesn't get out of hand in terms of the price of oil.
That sort of answers question number 2 perfectly. So that was great, because the question number 2 was what happened today to turn things around, at least partially. And then you mentioned, and this really, perks my ears anytime you or anybody else brings up AI and the AI influence, especially on Mondays, because right after we talk to Paul, we're going to talk to Mike McClary from Intervine, our AI expert here on the show. And you and I, Paul, have talked a lot about AI and its influence and its impact and its how, as we move forward in time, how that impact and influence is going to only grow when it comes to economic issues, but just life issues. So AI is not going anywhere. You mentioned that it's such a roller coaster and things can change so quickly. And you mentioned as AI, being one of those factors. What is the latest, if there is anything specifically, or if there's, what is the sort of latest AI issues that are impacting the markets and the economy right now?
Well, that is such a really good question that I'm going to speak just for a minute, not based off of a research report that I read. I'm going to speak just based off of my observation of market history going back, 2 or 3 decades here.
Yeah.
So when the internet first became a thing and it started finding its way into homes across the U.S., remember when AOL used to send out those CDs in the mail? And you could put them in your computer and you're like, wow, we just got 10 free hours of internet. And you had the dial up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was in a time when the internet was just really changing every day, and the way it was changing the world was playing out in front of us every single day. And so we saw bubbles come and bubbles go. Well, when you're talking about AI, it's kind of like that, but it's different. And I think a lot of investors and institutional investors have learned some of these lessons in the tech sector from the past, like what we saw when the internet and the .com bubble, first started to manifest. I think right now, people see artificial intelligence as the next great industrial revolution. But the thing is because it's artificial intelligence and the speed at which it changes and innovates, now it's in even changing itself. Like it's filling in, it's identifying its own gaps and beginning to fill them. And so I think that we're going to see AI just continue to innovate faster than any other technology that we've ever had yet on the face of this planet. And because of that, I think that the markets are always going to be volatile around AI. But then as AI find its place in certain sectors and help certain sectors accomplish things or innovate in ways that help make them more stable, I think we'll start to see how AI is actually helping stabilize other sectors. But the volatility in AI itself is going to be around for a while. And I think that, like I said, I think we're just scratching the surface of this next industrial revolution-esque technology.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring up that industrial part of the AI growth, because that's something that we do talk to Mike about a lot. And when I think when we say AI, or we bring up the fact that we're going to talk about AI, I think that everybody assumes, and I would too, and I do when I hear somebody else say it, that we're going to be talking about, AI videos and AI technology and the latest new software that makes, these videos that look exactly like, real life and whatever it may be. But there's another side to AI that's so massively important, and that is that with all of this new technology and this new software, something has to power it. And what we have right now is insufficient when it comes to enough power to keep up with these massive advancements in the AI technology. So power plants and, all these construction jobs and all of these power plants and all of these, things this infrastructure has to be built around the country to support this AI revolution, and that's a really good thing when it comes to jobs. And, some issues that are, there's certainly plenty of negative. Don't get me wrong. I am, I've never been accused of being an optimist on basically any issue. But there are some very positive things that come along with the growth of AI that I don't think get talked about enough. And there will be a lot of building, a lot of infrastructure that has to be put into place to facilitate AI. And that's going to be a major boon, I think, in some areas.
I was just having this conversation with somebody in St. Charles maybe about 2 weeks ago. And the whole point of investing, just on a general way to look at it, right? What you would like to do, we hear the sayings, buy low, sell high. One of the other sayings that you'll often hear different famous investors say is, you want to find out where the money's about to go, and you want to get there first. And so when you look at AI and what that's going to turn into, we've already seen President Trump talked about this in his State of the Union address, the data centers and all the power that they're going to need and how they have legislation right now in Washington, D.C. Like, people can listen to that and get a clue for just how big this is and how it's going to change the world. And I would even say it's going to change the landscape, because to your point, they are going to have to build buildings. It is going to require a lot of data centers. So the conversation that I had with a client the other day was centered around, well, what does this look like for my portfolio? Like, we see the world changing. How does my portfolio change to stay relevant with a world that's in a state of growth right now? And these are important questions, like that you can actually, as any retail investor, anybody with an IRA can be having these types of questions, these types of conversations, because it could have a direct impact on the way they structure the investments that they have in their portfolio.
Talking to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Only a few minutes left here, Paul, but I wanted to touch on this. You talked about oil prices. I mentioned that there's, the oil price issue is in the headlines today. I had to do a double take when I read this headline. Top Senate Democrat wants President Trump to tap the nation's oil stockpile as fuel prices skyrocket. Chuck Schumer called on Trump to unleash reserve barrels of oil from America's Strategic Petroleum Reserve as oil prices spike during the conflict in the Middle East. Schumer argued in a statement that the reserve, quote, exists for moments exactly like this, where he and other Democrats have shot down this exact idea time after time in the past. So crazy to hear that coming from the Democrats, and I certainly agree. Well, we have, like I said, just about 2 minutes left here, Paul. What is the influence of what's happening with oil prices when in regards to the markets today?
Whatever happens with oil is going to directly affect how people feel about the future. It's kind of like what I said at the very beginning. If oil prices go up and it looks like there's going to be more competition for oil, if it becomes more scarce, then that could signal to people that the outlook for the growth in our economy or the global economy might begin to slow down a little bit. So I'm glad Chuck Schumer's doing this. Maybe he should think about that next time they pass some of their policies that lock us out and have President Trump renaming things like the Gulf of America, right? Hopefully we don't have to name everything, after America. I'd be okay with that. But that's what happens. Policy has consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think in any way, I mean, just from not only your financial background, but your political background and everything else, can we just switch to can we rely on ourselves a little bit more than the Middle East? And how much would that help in a situation like what we're experiencing today?
It would certainly help us out a lot. And I think it would do a lot of good for our economy, for at least people to know that the U.S., we have our oil, we can tap our reserves, we can drill, and certainly America would be in a much stronger position considering our other global position right now as one of the leaders in this war against Iran.
Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. If you are looking to get on the right path financially or have somebody that you can trust to talk to about your financial future and the path that you are on financially, personally, with your family, contact Paul and his team at PR Curtman Investments. Paul, as always, really appreciate your time, my friend. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Tony.
You bet. All right, great stuff there. And we are going to continue this conversation specifically about AI and big tech because our AI and big tech expert, Mike McClary from Intervine.com, joins us next.
You can feel the Clydesdales circling the field. Hear the stands come alive. Smell the hot dogs, the popcorn, and cold beer in the air. See the crowd rise as the first pitch hits the glove. And just like that, a new season begins. The countdown is on until opening day, and tickets start at just $49. Don't miss St. Louis's favorite holiday. Get your tickets at cardinals.com/opening day.
Cardinals single-game tickets are now on sale for the 2026 season. The schedule delivers big-time matchups, including weekend series against the Cubs and Dodgers, and visits from the Boston Red Sox. Add in a promotions calendar stacked with fan favorites like all-new giveaways, a Hawaiian short and shirt set, golf-inspired hat, dark mode jersey, and a whole lot more. It's Busch Stadium at its best all season long. Lock in your seats today at Cardinals.com.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint by a lot, backed with our 25-year transferable warranty. Paint a house, shield a home. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, steel, aluminum, cedar, and more. We are the only coating company selected by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where all 3 episodes concentrate on unpainted brick. If you maintain or own a business with a tired-looking building, you owe it to yourself to look at Rhino Shield and our beautifully durable color schemes. Evaluations are free. We're making buildings pop and be noticed again, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks, exceeding expectations every day with our products, people, and performance. Now is the time to call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or go to 877-25rhino.com and see how honest and transparent we really are. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump is not interested in making a deal with Iran. The president said the U.S. has no plans to negotiate with Iran's remaining leadership.
We're not looking to settle. They'd like to settle. We're not looking to settle.
Earlier, the president declared that he would not accept anything less than unconditional surrender. The Iranian president responded by saying the U.S. demand for surrender is a dream that they should take to their grave, and he threatened more strikes on American targets in the Middle East. Greg Clugston, Washington. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. and Israel are making great progress knocking out Iran's ability to terrorize the region.
This is a terrorist government. This is a terroristic regime. And we are seeing them conduct terrorism using nation-state elements, using weapons like missiles and one-way attack drones. And the objective of this mission is to destroy their ability to continue to do that. And we are well on our way.
Correspondent Sam Medic reports from the scene of a death in Israel. The country blames on an Iranian missile.
I'm at the site of a missile strike in central Israel. First responders behind me. Now, what they've said is that at least one person has been killed. Several others have been critically injured. And authorities said that this was caused by a cluster munition.
And that is Sam Mednick reporting. The U.S. military officials say they've killed 6 men in a strike on an alleged drug smuggling vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean. More from correspondent Andrew Stewart.
This strike is part of the Trump administration's campaign against alleged traffickers. Sunday's attack brought the death toll to at least 157 people since the Trump administration began targeting those it calls narco-terrorists in small vessels in early September. U.S. Southern Command says it targeted alleged traffickers along known smuggling routes. However, the military did not provide evidence that the vessel carried drugs.
That is Andrew Stewart reporting. More from townhall.com.
A Social Security update. 70 million Americans collect Social Security benefits today, and millions more will join soon. Now, a new study finds 70% of Americans don't get the full benefits they deserve. But recipients can use simple strategies to boost Social Security benefits by as much as $188,000 over a lifetime. Social Security expert Michael Allen says it's true and reveals 5 key strategies to increase your benefits. It's all in his free special report. Newsmax calls the report your best guide for bigger Social Security benefits. Whether you're getting benefits or soon will, you need the Social Security report. Get it free. Call 800-999-9690. 800-999-9690. We'll text it to you right away, along with President Trump's act cutting your Social Security taxes. Call now, 800-999-9690. 800-999-9690. Text and data rates may apply.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Today is gorgeous. We're looking at a high temperature near record territory. Forecast high of 79 degrees, but the record for today is only 80, and that was set back in 1925. So at the very least, we could hit that record. Mostly sunny skies. We do get some more cloud cover building in tomorrow. A low temperature of 62 degrees, looking at a forecast high in the afternoon of 82. It does get a bit stormy Tuesday night into early Wednesday.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Fox News commentary with David Marcus next.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Here's David Marcus.
Langone Medical Center, a New York City giant in the healthcare industry, has announced it will stop providing surgery and hormone treatments for children confused about their gender. This comes after years of the medical establishment insisting that surgery on minors is very rare and needed only in extreme cases. The American people were never given a rational explanation for how suddenly men could become women, because there isn't one. Credentialed experts just declared it, and to question it made one a bigot. If, as the medical establishment insists, transgender medical treatment for kids is so rare as to not be an issue, then there should be no problem in ending the programs and finding better treatment options until a child reaches maturity. The left's argument isn't about what makes sense or even what's best for children. This is really about affirming the delusions of adults who want the whole world to play pretend with them. Saving kids from medical procedures based on delusions is a great first step.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
I think you're a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
1019 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth anywhere but here. News Talk STL.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 1019 News Talk STL. What is this? I mean, I know what it is. It's Gangster's Paradise, but what version of it is it? What is it? Stevie Wonder's version of Gangster's Paradise. All right. That's good stuff. Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 1019 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, who is picking out fantastic music today. Big thanks to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments for joining us in that last segment. Also talked to Gabe Phifer, News Talk STL contributor, former co-host Mike Ferguson in the morning in that 2 o'clock hour. If you missed any of it, go and check it out on our podcast. Subscribing to Colombo and Company on your favorite podcast platform is the best way to make sure you never miss anything that happens here on the show, including our weekly conversation with Mike McClary from Intervine and Intervine.com, who is on the line with us now, our big tech AI expert. Mike, so much to dig into. As always, appreciate your time as we kick off another week here.
I love being in here. Even though it's my wedding anniversary, there's no other place I'd rather be, and I hope she's not listening.
Happy anniversary. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To you and Tony. And it's not me. Different Tony.
The other Tony.
It's exactly
with an I.
right. With an I, yeah.
And no coupons with her name.
We're one Tony away from recreating the band Tony. which was a real band that existed in the 80s and 90s. Go look it up. They had a couple of really good songs. So, yeah, a lot to talk about here. I've got my normal list of AI topics that I always have, prepared whenever we talk. But I wanted to start with, I don't know if you had a chance to hear any of that conversation I just had with Paul. We sort of unintentionally made almost that whole segment with Paul about AI. We talk to Paul every week to get a, opening the week, kickoff when it comes to markets and economic news and things like that. And he mentioned how much AI is influencing the markets right now and how that will only continue and will grow. And one of the things that we touched on was an issue that we have discussed here on this segment many times in the past. And that is it's not just, when we talk about AI growth, it's not just the products and the videos and, what AI is capable of the things that first come to mind when somebody brings up AI to you. But there's also so much infrastructure that has to be put into place, enough power to power all of these new products and technology in order for AI to be able to do all the things it's capable of. We need more power than we currently have. So there's going to be massive construction projects and infrastructural changes and developments across the country and across the world in the next few years. There will be a huge thing for jobs and for construction companies and things like that. And I think another major layer when it comes to the entire onion, when we're unpeeling all the things that AI touches in our lives right now. Where are we as far as in that pursuit for providing the more compute, more power for these AI systems to take advantage of?
Yeah, we are still woefully behind on that just because it's being met with so much resistance. We need data centers. We need power plants to power those data centers. And you've probably, heard, even in our own area, I think Troy, Illinois, up in St. Charles, as soon as people hear data centers, they're immediately against it. And they have some reasons. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's not just a knee-jerk reaction because these data centers need power. And without the new guideline that the Trump administration put in, where these data center providers are going to provide their own power, without that, then they would have had a big draw on the power. And if there's a huge draw on power, same demand, more demand, same capacity, rates are going to naturally rise. And so that's really going to help. I hope now that gets pushed through, he brings in the AI companies, they agree to provide their own power. That should reduce some of the pushback we've been seeing. And then they can move on to building these because we really need to get them build. They've been building, but we are nowhere near where we need to be, Tony. And so we're going to see construction for the next 5-10 years easily on the whole build out for infrastructure, data centers, and power centers that we need to power everything we want to do.
And it's going to go fast because these big companies that have invested billions and billions of dollars in their AI development are not going to sit around and wait for that investment to start to pay off. And it can't pay off until those power plants and all of those systems are in place. So this is something that's going to happen quickly in the next, as you mentioned, in the next several years. Go ahead.
And that's why the markets are so volatile right now, like Paul said. And I was listening, by the way, great segment, loved hearing all that. And because investors, they want to see they want to see a solid chance of a return and something fairly soon. There is no soon payoff on AI when it comes into this investment. These are table stakes. You have to have the infrastructure in place before you can build out everything we want to do with it. And that's going to take a few years. And then once you have that, then you start reaping some of the rewards of that. But even at that point, it starts taking time to gain some of that back. So we're talking several years for heavy investment. We're seeing investment at a level we have never in our lifetime even come close to seeing. Companies that are some of the most profitable companies in the world are spending twice what their entire profits are each year just on next year's infrastructure investments. Like they're not just spending their profits, which is kind of crazy, spending all of your profits. They're doubling what they're spending versus what their profits are, because they know how important this is. I look at this as like going to Vegas, and if you're used to playing at $2 blackjack tables, which don't exist anymore, I've looked. But
oh no,
and let's say you're trying to find a $20, $25 one. This is like $5,000 blackjack tables only. That's kind of like what it takes to get into the game. And so the reward is really, really big, but the risk is really big too. And that's why these markets are so volatile right now.
I didn't know you couldn't find the $2 tables anymore. That's a little bit depressing for
not that I've tried to look for.
So, as I mentioned earlier with Gabe, and I think everybody that listens knows that I am not the most optimistic person in the world when it comes to just about anything. So I live a dark, scared life. But one of the positives when I look for positives in the AI. In the AI story, in the AI development, the idea of it creating and providing so many jobs and so much construction and infrastructure and the smart people that need to, be in these buildings, building these computers and putting up the walls and, digging the holes and like everything, across the board. This is one of the positives for me. So when you say, there's pushback to that part of it, which in what you just described there, the concerns on, if you live in a small town or even, even here, even, in a major city like St. Louis, if you put in a massive data center that's going to be, sucking way more of a percentage of the available power than we're used to, that can be concerning and have a negative impact. So I understand that. Are most of as far as you've seen at least, when it comes to the pushback of building these data centers and these power plants and things like that, is it like, financial issues like that, or potential financial issues like that you described with the power that are leading the way? Or is it still just AI in general and the fear of its capability in handling things that play a role in that pushback?
I think what it really is the fear of AI, but I don't think you hear people saying that.
Yeah.
I think
they want to find a different reason to come up. Yeah. It's an excuse.
The water. They're worried about the water, which it doesn't pollute water. They're worried about the noise, which, yes, there is noise, but it's no more noise than any other type of business that's out there. Then it's the financial strain of having your power bills goes up. Well, they're going to bring in their own power supplies for these things. So they just keep going down this litany of reasons, when in the end, it is a big fear of the unknown. We have never seen data centers this size. So there is an unknown. We've never seen AI the way that it's hitting our nation and the world. So it is an unknown. Then there's just this big fear of the unknown of AI and what it's going to do. And so I get it. I totally get it. The problem, not the problem, the reality is it's here and we can't go back. And if we all focus as good as we can on the positive and try to restrain it the best we can, doesn't mean we're out of the woods completely, but it gives us a much better chance of making it much more good for us on the ROI side of this than if something terrible goes wrong. I think we kind of need to get over the initial fear, and then we got to go all in, keep our finger on the pulse so we know that it doesn't go off the rails, and then start really focusing on the benefits. Because there's a ton of beneficial things we didn't even get into, like improvements in medical and healthcare, improvements in weather, trying to forecast the weather, improvements and all types of things, earthquakes. I mean, there's all kinds of things we can get out of AI to help us, but we got to get over that initial fear, not completely, but at least the initial part of it, so we can start moving forward and focusing on the positive things.
The water thing just makes me so mad. It's so stupid. And so I just hate it. And, the lesson, if you don't understand your history, you'll never understand the future. Like it's such a perfect example here, because we've been through all this with the water. Mm-hmm. It's the same argument that people had about nuclear power plants that use cooling. It's basically the same thing, using the water as a cooling agent. That's it. And so whenever I hear people say, it's almost always one of the first questions I get if I talk somebody, out in my real life about this segment with you, Mike. Anytime I'm talking about AI and how I say, every Monday we talk AI with Mike McClary, one of the first things I always get is, what about the water thing? What does Mike think about the water thing? Like, it's just this, like, I thought we put this to bed about the power plants and the water. Like, that's not real. It just drives me
there's not
crazy.
someone sitting there pouring a pitcher of water over raw uranium and letting it go into the water supply. That's
Right.
not how cooling works. And I
Right.
think people think that.
Yeah, I think that they do too. And then a TikTok video comes out and it says, for every 30-second AI video, 5 gallons of water are polluted forever and can never be cleaned. It's just like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
That's
they don't
not
back
real.
it up.
Yeah.
They just kind of throw it out there,
It's not real, folks. If you see that, it's not real. Just ignore it, please. We've been down this road. Using water to cool things off does not pollute the water forever. And in many cases,
It does make it warm.
It does
so
make
be
it warm.
prepared.
Yeah, but
fishing.
in many cases, like winter fishing next to a power plant, that's fantastic. It's great for the fishing. It's great for the fish, actually. So, yeah, okay. So anyway, just wanted to put that to bed. Well, not to bed. I'm sure we'll bring it up again. Talking to Mike McClary from Intervine and Intervine.com, our AI expert here on Colombo and Company. Let's get into some of these AI stories of the day, including headlines I'm seeing all over the place about Anthropic and the company Anthropic suing the Trump administration. Anthropic today made the announcement they are suing the Department of Defense and other federal agencies after the Pentagon announced last week that the AI company would be labeled a threat to national security and its products would be banned from use for defense purposes within the government. Can you shed some light on what this is all about, this conflict between Anthropic and the federal government?
Yeah, so what's been happening now for a while now, like for probably talking 6-12 months, AI has been used in the government. It's already been there. They've been using it in a lot of our military. They've had their own specific military AI tools that have been used for a long time now. But now with these, what we call frontier models, these models like by OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, the big three that are out there, these models surpass anything we've had in the past. And they're starting to use these AI models in their everyday work. And it came out that during the raid on Venezuela, Anthropic's Claude AI was used to help plan and actually execute that. And that's been reported now by lots of different agencies out there. It's kind of been out there, and it's crazy because it did such a good. I mean, you hear about that. It was probably one of the best performed military operations we've ever heard. And if I were Anthropic, I'd be out there saying like, yeah, we played a role in this. Our AI is that good. We save lives. We help execute this. But to their credit or discredit, however you look at it, they of course are concerned about their AI being used for military purposes. Not that it can't be, but when it comes to any type of surveillance on domestic people inside the United States, and also on any type of completely autonomous weapons. If you just have an AI that makes that final decision to pull a trigger, they don't want that, or at least they want to have a lot more say in that. And so from what I've heard, they've brought those concerns up to the Department of War. They don't like having any kind of constraints on that. And so after these negotiations, after several weeks, they kind of broke down. And so they, I don't know if it was Hegseth or whoever else, and they're kind of said, okay, we're not going to use Claude anymore in our department, and you're out, and we're going to use someone else's AI in here. And they, very quickly, within a day or two, had negotiated a deal with OpenAI, makers of ChatGPT, to use theirs throughout the government. XAI, Elon Musk's AI is already being used as well. Gemini is being used as well. But they told Anthropic, you're out of here. And then what they did, and here's what I think is happening here. What they did is they claimed that it is now, they can't be used. They said there's a name where they give it some kind of like, it's classified as a banned tool that like an enemy state, basically.
Yeah.
And so no one can use it. A threat to our security.
Yep, that's
which it's not that. I think this is the Trump administration doing what he does all the time. He goes to the extreme. Part of his negotiation is go to the furthest extreme, and then that way, every single way that you negotiate down from there is a win. And so I think they're kind of saying this like, hey, we'll play ball, but you just can't say carte blanche that we have to go through you for every single decision on how we're using it, if we feel like we're using it for lawful purposes. So I imagine they'll win this lawsuit, or at least the Department of War will withdraw it. They'll come back in, they'll be used, but they'll have some constraints because OpenAI, who did get a contract, they got every single detail that Anthropic wanted. They got the ability to not actually use AI for completely autonomous weapons. They got it put into the contract that it will not be used to survey domestic people in the United States. Like all those things they gave to OpenAI. So I think it was kind of a way that they negotiated.
Yeah.
They came in like with a negotiation stance, not a, hey, you can't do this without going through us on this. That's kind of how Anthropic did it.
Yeah, and that's a great job of explaining that, by the way, because there's, you see these headlines and trying to make sense of what is at the heart of the issue is sometimes very difficult to do. And I think you did a great job of explaining it there. And I personally, I have, both sides make me shake my head in at times in this argument. I agree with you about the Trump administration. It's not they label it Anthropic a threat. It's not a threat. I do understand the federal government's saying, like, we're not going to use your systems anymore if we can't use them for what we need them for. I don't know how they can also do the same with ChatGPT, but maybe they're going to use the OpenAI software for, other issues, and they're going to rely on Google and Gemini or Elon Musk and Grok for some of the other military systems, because I know while it may sound at first, because this is such a new issue, looking through the AI lens of things, to me, it breaks down to any other product. And you and I have talked about this exact issue on this show and this segment in the past. What if Ford decided they started looking into people and like, oh, what are you going to use this car for? Oh, we don't want you to use this car for making deliveries anymore, so we're not going to sell you a vehicle because we don't like what you're going to do with our product. And, like that, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. If we buy the product, your product is AI. It's created to think and solve problems and be applied to issues. Now, I don't think it should be, if somebody's using AI to plan a bank robbery or a murder, then yeah, that's a crime, and the person who's doing that should be charged, convicted, and punished for their crimes. But
and I think we have that law already. I'm not sure. I need to check.
Exactly. And there's also, I can't help but be a part of me, somebody who has well documented how the phones and the internet is spying on us at all times, that they take this sanctimonious stand of like, well, we don't want our products used to harm people. Okay. Yeah. Stealing data, we have no problem with that, or some of the other sneaky things that they do. But the military, oh, my goodness. We can't have that. So, yeah, Trump labeling Anthropic as a threat makes me roll my eyes, but then the argument, by the company also makes me roll my eyes. But this whole issue is a big example, I think, of the various debates and hurdles and decisions that we have to make about AI and what's okay and what's not okay and what needs to be regulated and what doesn't need to be regulated. Because I think
it's a new world.
Yeah, there's lots of issues that we don't even you can't even anticipate, are going to create a conflict or something that needs to be worked out until it's happened.
I mean, wait for it, Tony. But imagine when robotics come into play here.
Oh.
If a big robotics firm comes in and starts making some really good robotics, just like Iron Fist King, then and they say, you know what? We only want them. I don't know. We only want them cooking.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't think they'll get a contract.
No, that's a great point. And in fact, it's a perfect lead-in to the next issue that I wanted to talk about, which is physical AI. There's a new headline out, new story out about physical AI is having its moment and everyone wants a piece of it. So I want to bring that up as we continue the conversation. Mike McClary is going to stick around with us for another segment. We're going to continue the conversation about AI and big tech. Also, don't forget about Intervine.com. That's Mike's company, local business, family-owned business that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps on the market. I was using twice over the weekend I used Intervine products. You're so connected with AI in my brain. Intervine products for one project I was doing in the garage last night, and then my son-in-law had a computer issue. We had to take his computer apart, and we needed, a light to get in there and see what we were doing, and both times went right to the drawer, grabbed my one case was the headlamp, the other was a flashlight. Great Intervine products. If you need a reliable flashlight for your home or business, or you need, the heavy-duty tech flashlight or something for camping and things like that, go to Intervine.com, use my name, Tony, and you'll get 25% off everything. Lanterns, headlamps, flashlights, even batteries in all different sizes. My name, Tony, is your promo code. Gets you 25% off at Intervine, INTERVINE.com. We continue the conversation with Mike McClary from Intervine next.
To the evils of the world and spending most their lives living in.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app
And listen anytime,
anywhere.
We're talking in the 2 o'clock hour with Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments, talking about the markets and various things happening. One thing that is happening here as, we're into March and the weather's starting to get better. People are starting to move around, get outside more, and the housing market is starting to pick up. And if you are someone that is thinking about selling your home, there is one team to call in the St. Louis area that stands above the rest, and that, of course, is the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. I know this from personal experience, both directly with me and many friends and family members that have relied on the Wallners to sell their home, and also for me and for my mom recently to purchase a new home on the other side of it all. They are just the best. Rodney and Jen are selling 15 times more homes per year than your typical home seller. They have so many qualified buyers right now that they guarantee to get you an offer. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, so no matter where you are in the St. Louis area, the Wallner Home Selling Team can help you. Of course, our very own Jamie Allman, part of that Wallner Home Selling Team. They are absolutely the best. Nobody has better experience, and nobody, and this is the big one that sets them apart, in my opinion, the work ethic to do right and get the best deal possible for their customers than Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner Home Selling Team. So if you're thinking about selling your home, you need to call the Wallners now. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner Home Selling Team.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
One of my favorite politicians is, get ready, this is going to surprise most of you, anger many of you. One of my favorite politicians is Democrat campaign strategist James Carville. Wait a minute. I didn't say I like his politics, but I like him because, well, he's from Louisiana. And I do like quoting Carville in my Texas Cajun accent. I'm not a dummy, you'd say. I got Bill Clinton in the White House, I did. He grew up in Cajun land near Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He got involved in politics while in high school. Now, by getting involved, I mean he would run around and tear down campaign signs for candidates he didn't like. Carville did go to college, but admits, I had 56 hours of F's before LSU threw me out. So then he turned to the Marines, became a jarhead. Now, eventually, Carville did return to Knight College and got a law degree. So, in a way, he's kind of like a combination of Louisiana Senator John Kennedy and Foghorn Leghorn, a cartoon character of the 40s. I say, boy, I say, you're as sharp as a bowling ball. You surely are.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
I want to share something with you. Cooking a pizza using coal creates an amazing pizza. Only one place to get it, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. Of course, they offer a wide variety of pasta, but you just visit the website napolistl.com, dine in or take out, and get ready for patio season. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Try it. You can thank me later.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story. The Hells Angels. Get ready for a ride.
Larry Connors USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio. Mike McClary from Intervine and Intervine.com, our big tech AI expert on the line with us. And Mike, we expect, everybody to understand and, start to adopt and use AI products. And you think, are we capable of that as a society? And you think people are smart. They can figure it out, right? And then I see a headline that says 1 in 7 Americans were caught by surprise by daylight saving time. So maybe not. If 1 in 7 can't figure out what the clocks are doing, then I'm not sure. It makes me a little bit worried about the rest of our future. But I guess AI will be switching the clocks for us automatically. Or how about we just get rid of the time change and not even have to worry about it?
Amen. You know what? When I do run for president,
yes,
sometime in 2093, 2094, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Get rid of that. That will be my entire platform.
Amen. That'll get my vote. But believe me, you know what? I'll vote for you more than once. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we have it solved by then.
I got you covered on
now,
that.
Now, will AI robots have a vote, though? Because that'll probably be something we'll see coming down the pipe here.
Will there be rights for the AI robots?
Yeah.
And I've seen that Star Trek Next Generation episode. And you know what? The AI won. So, tonight will be the first night.
Kind of crazy how far ahead they were.
Yeah,
on
right.
Their shows
I know
back then.
they really
were.
I know. Yeah. I know. Absolutely. Tonight will be the first night driving home. Hopefully with some sun in the sky in many months, which will be very,
I do love that.
Very, very cool. So, if you wonder why you've been behind all day, make sure your clocks are correct. just a quick reminder there. So diving back into the conversation here with Mike McClary from Intervine. In that first segment, talking a lot about, the AI infrastructure and the projects and, what's, going to be built to support all of this and some of the legislation against it. But now I want to kind of switch the conversation to more of I think what people, immediately think of when they think of AI, and that's the products and the chatbots and the videos and, of course, the robots. As I mentioned, physical AI is a term that I'm seeing a lot in the headlines recently, including this one article that I mentioned a moment ago from AI News, which says physical AI is having its moment. And so can you kind of describe what physical AI means? And, I think that's the race, right? I mean, the first company that can give you that AI assistant that can be in your home, doing your housework, doing your chores, assisting with your life, things like that. I mean, that's the holy grail to who can get to that product first and make it affordable and get people buying something like that that's a big
Yeah,
race.
and I think what we're going to see is it's probably going to be manufacturing that kind of hits the mark first because we need workers.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we have so much going on with production, manufacturing. We want to bring back to the United States with doing the build outs for everything. We need workers, but and the reason why we need workers that can work anywhere is because AI robots can work anywhere, and that's we're talking about robotics. Kind of when we talk about physical AI, because so in the past, AI has meant something software, AI chatbots, videos, music, whatever it is. The next big stage, and we kind of talked about this, I think, at the beginning of the year, like what do we see come in 2026? It's physical AI, robotics, basically, actually having AI do things for you, not just answering questions, but actually doing things for you.
Yeah.
And so,
and you mentioned
we need.
That's a great point about it being in not just in your home, but like in businesses, companies using that physical AI, the robotics to do their work is another. That's part of this race, certainly. I'm sorry.
It is, and there's still a bit. You may think that we have like a lot of unemployment right now, but the one statistic that always drives me crazy is how many open jobs there are that no one is applying for. And manufacturing is one of those. Almost every single manufacturing company out there right now has job openings because they can't find enough qualified workers. And how are we going to become, again, the manufacturing powerhouse if we don't have enough qualified workers? That's where AI comes in. We've already been supplementing them in factories. Almost every advanced manufacturing facility right now already has robotics in there, AI robotics, these arms and levers doing things. And so the natural next shift is going to be going to full robotics. And we have companies that are already producing robots that can do things in the manufacturing world. They're not quite there yet, but they're going to be getting there. And this is the year they're making that big push. And unfortunately, there's a dichotomy of who's winning this race. For us here in the US and the West, we're winning, I'd say, the intelligence race, the software race, creating the best frontier AI models and software. But China absolutely has, they have the lead when it comes to manufacturing. Think about the manufacturing power they have over there. They have some really good AI models. They have the best supply chain ever. And they can just ramp out once they have these robotics down where they're working really well. They can absolutely outpace us when it comes to creating robotics. So I think it's one of the things that they are absolutely focusing on, spending tens of billions of dollars just on building out robotic manufacturing plants.
Yeah, and talk about our past problems coming home to roost. The reason that they are so far ahead of the game when it comes to manufacturing is because we've allowed them to be. We've allowed that to happen on the world stage, and hopefully this is a wake-up call that changes that and gets a lot of that industry and jobs and manufacturing back here in the United States. But part of this conversation is also so you did a good job there of laying out, where the United States is leading the pack, where China may be leading the pack. Is there a company specifically that seems to be ahead of the game when it comes to robotics, or is this a race between all the companies that we've discussed today and throughout the last weeks that are all kind of pointing towards that goal?
Yeah, so like when it comes to the U.S., it's a lot of the companies here are the ones that we kind of know about already. Tesla's are a big player in that space. Google is a big player. Google has they have a lab called Google X, which is where they just spend a lot of money coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas that may never go somewhere. Well, they just finally took one of their companies that was out of their Google X labs and turned it into a full-blown company. And it's Intrinsic. Yeah, Intrinsic's the name of it. So there was just like a little project. Now they're like, this is going to become a full-blown division of Google. Now they won't be building physical robots. They're building all the software that controls the physical reality for robots, which is really, really important, really hard to do. But this is going to become a full-blown division of Google. Now that's how important they see robotics, an entire part of their company dedicated towards it. There are other players in the US that do have a place in manufacturing. I think Tesla's probably number one. We always think of them just as, either cars or their SpaceX counterpart there. But robotics is a huge part of their business model and what they're looking to do in the future. But we don't have enough of them. I mean, it does kind of scare me. There's such a long build out when it comes to manufacturing as well. Just like we talk about power plants and infrastructure, same thing for manufacturing, same thing for skilled workforce. We just don't have that set up to even compete with China when it comes to building out robotics. So I don't really have a great answer for how we're going to keep up with them when it comes to that.
Mike, we have just under 2 minutes left here before we run out of time this week. You want to talk a little bit about AI Photo Studio?
Oh, yeah. So,
Yeah.
this has been a passion project of mine. And so as an e-commerce brand owner for Intervine and helping lots of other people out there, the biggest problem we've had is being able to get really good product photos because I can't afford to pay for models. I can't afford to do photo shoots, afford to do all these expensive photo shoots. They can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000. And so as a passion project over the holidays, I started saying, could I use Google's tools to create a photo studio for my own business? And I was able to do it. And
it's awesome.
The most powerful. Oh, I appreciate that. I really do.
The videos, what you've shared with me look incredible.
Yeah, and my whole goal is this. I want to make things useful. My whole goal for the whole year is I want to help build useful things for people, what business you're in. And this is my first one. And it's going to be able to take anyone who has a product, brand, whatever. You sell on Etsy, you want to get some great pictures. It allows you to do that very affordably. Also allows you to use real models like you saw. They look like real models. They talk like real models, but they ain't real models. I got to admit, when I showed that video to my wife, she was a little nervous. Like, hey, who's the blonde in this video here? Like, she doesn't exist. I promise.
Yep. Is it too early to tell people to go and check it out or look for it anywhere? I mean, you can Google it.
If they want to, just go to amazing.com/studio. They can check it out there. They can see it all there and try it for free. You can get a free one. You guys can all check it out too. We have a free one. Anyone can try it out if they want to. And give me feedback. I just want to make this as useful as possible for anyone out there.
That's awesome. Mike McClary from Intervine and amazing.com/studio to learn more about AI Photo Studio. Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. Talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
All right, O'Reilly next, then Tim and Chris.
Schools like public libraries should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to